Right, we have 21 days to go to Brexit, and things are getting quite tough for Boris Johnson because he's completely gambled and risked his entire career on this issue ever since he became Prime Minister back in July. But we also have a new problem. As you know, the Remain MPs and the Remain campaign in general over the last 3 years and especially the last 6 months have used so many different ways to stop Brexit. And now they have a new addition as an active member of their camp to their cause. And that's the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. Now, John Bercow, apparently yesterday, he had a private meeting with the new President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli. And this meeting was supposed to be private. And the new President of the European Parliament, Sassoli, essentially accidentally leaked it when he was making a statement in the European Parliament. John Bercow met David Sassoli, President of the European Parliament, in private, but then...
This morning, I also had a fruitful discussion with Speaker Bercow, which I set out my view that any request by British institutions for an extension of or any prorogation of Parliament should allow the British people to give its views, whether it be in a referendum or a general election. Speaker Bercow and I were very much on the same wavelength regarding the importance of the roles of our respective parliaments in managing Brexit. And we share an awareness that a chaotic exit of the United Kingdom from the European Union would work to the detriment of citizens on both sides. I do trust that no deal can be avoided at the end of the day. The European Union nonetheless has adopted all the necessary measures to prepare for the consequences should it occur.
Now you might wonder why the Speaker of the House of Commons, a position that is supposed to be impartial and neutral in UK politics, even had a meeting with the President of the European Parliament. Maybe he wanted to meet him to say welcome as the new President and kind of teach him his ways and everything else, but no. The meeting was to find a new plan in Parliament to cancel Brexit. Nigel Farage tweeted, "Here in Brussels, the new European Parliament President, David Sassoli, confirms a meeting with John Bercow in which they agreed to work to prevent a clean break Brexit. What right does the Speaker have to do this? Disgraceful." And you know what, Nigel is right. But the best reaction we had on this issue was from one of the Brexit Party MEPs, Belinda Tousi.
Let me make this very clear, Mr. Sassoli. You have no right to go and speak with the UK Speaker, having conversations that are directly interfering into our domestic politics. It exposes your intentions to intervene at all levels to stop Brexit. It is immoral. Shame on you. And Mr. Barnier, I note throughout your speech, sir, you kept referring to the British negotiators as just British. We are the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and that will never change. Brexit was not a rejection of Europe or our wonderful European friends. It was a rejection of the anti-democratic nature of EU institutions, and you confirm to us every day it was right to leave. Thank you.
You know, Belinda is absolutely right, because Brexit is not about Europe, it's about the European Union. And we've been repeating this for the past 3 years, but the Remainers just refuse to listen. It's not really our fault if they don't understand the basics of politics and European politics for that matter. But this meeting that Bercow had with the European Union in private, apparently, and the outcome, it didn't really go as planned for the Remainers, because the European Union, the European Parliament, they came out with the negotiating team to kind of confirm their stance on a potential extension. Now, their new position is that if the UK wants to get a Brexit delay, there are conditions. The European Union have confirmed that no extension without a new referendum or an election. The EU official says the UK must hold an election or a referendum to get Brexit extension. Corbyn is willing to grant Boris Johnson a general election on the 26th of November if Brexit is delayed. And Nigel Farage is now more optimistic about Brexit. Now, this new information for Downing Street is going to be quite huge because with this new condition, the only way that's what they say is if you want the extension, you have to basically indicate an election or a second referendum basically in November. So if Boris Johnson plays this card well, he can indicate that there's not going to be any election or second referendum in November anyway. And one of the 27 countries in Europe that have to basically approve this, even if one of them vetoes this, then obviously we'll be out. So this is a new option for Downing Street. But again, they can't just rely on this option because the EU keep changing the position every 10 minutes. They basically like the Labour Party. So, but it's not too bad because at least for once, Nigel Farage has now been optimistic just to see how it goes for the next couple of days. On the other hand, the UK MEPs, the Remainer UK MEPs, the Lib Dems, have been causing chaos again in the European Parliament. And once again, they called all of us, Brexit voters, stupid.
Yes, the country voted, the UK voted to leave the EU. But they didn't know what they were voting on and they were misled.
Yep, that happened again. But luckily, we had Nigel Farage present in the chamber.
You patronising, snuck-up snob. How dare you? How dare you tell people
they
didn't know what they were voting for? They knew exactly what they were voting for. They were voting against 50 years of people like you lying to them. They did it, you promised, you'd enact it, and you, the Lib Dems and others, have betrayed the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation.
You know what? We are getting sick and tired of these people either insulting us or find any words that they could to label us something and then complain about us, the Brexit side, or Boris Johnson for using bad language like surrender or humbug. Seriously. Guy Verhofstadt, as you know, one of the loudest and craziest people in the European Union, who keeps complaining about the language that we hear from the Brexit side. Guess what he said recently? Guy Verhofstadt calls Boris Johnson a traitor after Brexit deal offer rejected. Boris Johnson was branded a real traitor by a senior European Union negotiator yesterday as a potential counteroffer to his Brexit proposals was rejected by the Tory Eurosceptics. As you know, earlier today Boris met with the Irish Prime Minister Bercow in Cheshire to talk about the Brexit deadlock. We're just waiting to see the outcome. In the meantime, Guy Verhofstadt is accusing Boris Johnson of seeking scapegoats for a no-deal Brexit. He said, "The only one who is not to be blamed is Mr. Johnson, apparently. All those who are not playing his game are traitors, are collaborators, are surrenderers. The real traitor is he or she who risks bringing disaster on his country, its economy, and its citizens by pushing Britain out of the EU. That, in my opinion, is a traitor." Jesus Christ, dude, calm down. The UK leaving the EU is not the end of the world. And if you really care about cooperation and partnership between us and the rest of Europe, then as we said before, you could still do it. Just let us leave and we could sign a trade deal and we should be fine. But you can't have us in and out at the same time and then insulting us and complaining that we're leaving. This is the same guy who yesterday literally had a meeting with Jo Swinson, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, to give her her latest instructions and orders from her EU bosses. All I want is for these people to stop interfering into our politics. Just leave us alone, please. Just look at what these Remainers have done to our country. Look what they've done to our kids on the streets. Okay, you know what? This wasn't the fault of Remainers. This was the crazy climate change people. But you know what? Remainers blame everything on Brexit. So I'm going to blame this on Remain. Yeah. And on a separate note, as so many of you have been requesting this for the past few days, it's finally ready. The new t-shirt design with Boris Johnson and his two-finger B to the EU. You could find the link in the description with this t-shirt. You could also find this design on mugs and phone cases and everything else. If you want to check it out, there are also other designs. As I always say, if you have any design ideas, send me an email or just send me a message on Twitter or Instagram. You could find my social media details down here. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and click on a notification bell next to it. Otherwise, you won't be notified when I release a new video. As most of you know already, videos come out every day, Monday to Friday at 5:45 UK time. And Sundays, we have 8 p.m. we have live Q&As. And I am Tousi, and this is the fastest growing conservative Brexit channel in the UK.